I never thought much about gas stations before him. They were just places you stopped, filled your tank, maybe grabbed a coffee if you were desperate. But there's this one station on Route 7, the kind with the old-fashioned pumps and a convenience store that still has a bell that rings when you open the door, and that's where I met Finn. Or I guess I should say, that's where Finn decided to meet me. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, one of those perfect fall days where the air smells like dried leaves and possibility. I'd just left a particularly soul-crushing meeting at work, the kind where you realize you're 28 years old and still not sure what you're doing with your life. My car was running on fumes, so I pulled into that station, the one I'd driven past 100 times but never really noticed. I was standing there, watching the numbers tick up on the pump, when I heard this voice behind me. "Hey, your windshield's pretty gross. Want me to clean it?" I turned around, and there he was, this guy in a faded gas station uniform with a name tag that said Finn, holding a squeegee like it was Excalibur or something. He had this smile, not the customer service smile you usually get, but something genuine, a little crooked, like he was in on a joke I hadn't heard yet. "Sure," I said, "because what else do you say? I mean, my windshield was pretty disgusting, covered in bug guts and road grime from a weekend trip I'd taken upstate." He got to work, and I tried not to stare, but there was something about the way he moved, efficient but unhurried, like he actually cared about getting my windshield clean. Which was weird, right? Nobody cares that much about windshields. "You heading somewhere interesting?" he asked, glancing over at me. "Just home," I said. "From work?" He nodded, kept scrubbing. "What do you do?" And that's how it started. This conversation that should have lasted 30 seconds, but somehow stretched to 5 minutes, then 10. The gas pump clicked off at some point, and I barely noticed. We talked about nothing, really. My job in marketing, his classes at the community college, the weather, the best pizza places in town. But it felt like something. When I finally got back in my car, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him watching me drive away. My windshield had never been cleaner. Here's the thing, I didn't tell anyone. Not my roommate Tyler, not my best friend since college, nobody. I went back to that gas station 2 days later. I told myself it was just convenient, on my way home from work, even though I'd taken a detour that added 15 minutes to my commute. My gas tank was still 3/4 full. I pulled up to a pump anyway. Finn wasn't there. Some older guy with a beard was working instead, and I felt this weird disappointment that sat heavy in my chest. I filled up my tank even though I didn't need to, paid at the pump, and left. But the next week I tried again, and this time he was there. He recognized me immediately. His whole face lit up. "Windshield guy," he called out, walking over. "Back so soon? Your car must be really thirsty." I laughed, probably too loud. "Yeah, she's got a drinking problem?" He grinned at that, and we fell into conversation again just as easily as before. This time I learned he was studying environmental science, that he worked at the gas station 3 days a week to pay for school, that he'd moved here from Portland 2 years ago and still wasn't used to how quiet everything was. "Your windshield looks pretty good," he said, "but there's a spot right there. Want me to get it?" There was no spot. My windshield was almost pristine. But I said yes anyway, and he grabbed the squeegee and cleaned it while we kept talking. About his favorite hiking trails, about a documentary he'd watched about ocean plastic, about how his roommate kept adopting stray cats and now they had 4. When he finished, he started over on the other side. "This one's got some water spots," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Let me just..." That's when I realized what was happening. He was cleaning my already clean windshield just to have an excuse to keep standing there, to keep talking to me. And the thing that scared me, the thing that made my heart do this stuttering thing in my chest, was that I wanted him to. I wanted him to clean my windshield 100 times if it meant we could keep standing there in the autumn sunlight, talking about nothing and everything. I started going back every few days. It became this routine I built my week around. I'd time my trips for his shifts, which I'd figured out were Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday afternoons. Tyler noticed my sudden increase in gas expenses and made a joke about me taking up joyrides. I just shrugged it off. How do you explain to your straight roommate that you're spending $40 a week on gas you don't need just to see a guy who works at a gas station? The conversations got longer, deeper. We talked about real things, the kind of stuff you usually don't share with someone you barely know. He told me about his dad, who'd passed away when Finn was 19, and how he'd dropped out of a 4-year university to take care of his mom before finally moving here to start over. I told him about my family, about how I'd come out to them 3 years ago and how my dad still couldn't quite look at me the same way, how I'd thrown myself into work to avoid thinking about it too much. One Thursday in October, it was raining, that cold autumn rain that feels like tiny needles. I pulled up to the pump and Finn came jogging over with his jacket pulled up over his head. "This is crazy weather for cleaning windshields," I said. He laughed, water dripping down his face. "Yeah, probably not my best idea, but yours looked pretty dirty." It didn't. We both knew it didn't. But he cleaned it anyway, both of us getting soaked. And when he finished, he just stood there by my window, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. "You know," he said, and then stopped. Started again. "You know, there's a coffee shop about 2 blocks from here. They're open until 8. I felt my pulse in my throat. "Yeah?" "Yeah," he said. "I get off in an hour. If you wanted to, I don't know, get coffee. Actually get coffee. Not just talk about it while I pretend your windshield needs cleaning." I met him there an hour and 10 minutes later. I'd driven home, changed my shirt twice, given myself a pep talk in the mirror that mostly consisted of, "Don't be weird, don't be weird, don't be weird." The coffee shop was one of those local places with mismatched furniture and art from local artists on the walls. Finn was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt instead of his uniform. He looked nervous. I loved that he looked nervous. We stayed until they kicked us out at closing time. 3 hours that felt like 30 minutes. We talked about everything we'd already talked about and everything we hadn't. Our favorite books, the places we wanted to travel, embarrassing high school stories, what we wanted our lives to look like in 5 years. He told me he wanted to work in conservation, maybe for the National Park Service. I admitted I had no idea what I really wanted, that I'd fallen into marketing because it seemed practical, and I was still waiting to feel passionate about something. When we left, we stood in the parking lot, and there was this moment, this pause where neither of us moved toward our cars. The street light above us was flickering, and I could see my breath in the cold air, and Finn was looking at me like he was trying to memorize my face. "I should let you go," he said. But he didn't move. "Yeah," I said, not moving either. Then he said, "I've been cleaning your windshield for weeks now, and I think we both know it hasn't actually needed cleaning since the first time." I laughed, felt my face get hot despite the cold. "Yeah, I've noticed." He stepped a little closer. "So why do you keep coming back?" I could have said something safe, could have made a joke. Instead, I told the truth. "Because of you. Because talking to you is the best part of my week. Because I think about you when I'm sitting in traffic or trying to fall asleep. And I didn't plan on this, didn't expect it, but here we are." His smile started slow and then took over his whole face. "Here we are," he repeated. And then, "Can I kiss you? Right here in this coffee shop parking lot?" "Please," I said. And he did. Kissing Finn felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before, like finding something I didn't know I'd lost. His hand came up to cup the back of my neck, and I grabbed the front of his jacket, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. The cold, the parking lot, the complicated parts of life. There was just him, just us, Just this. We started seeing each other properly after that. Real dates, not just gas station conversations. He took me hiking on one of those trails he'd told me about, and we got lost for an hour and didn't care. I took him to this Thai restaurant I loved, and he ordered the spiciest thing on the menu to impress me, and then had to drink 3 glasses of milk. We went to a terrible horror movie and held hands in the dark theater, and I couldn't tell you a single thing about the plot because I was too aware of his thumb tracing circles on my palm. But we still had our gas station ritual. I'd still stop by on his shifts, and he'd still clean my windshield, and we'd both laugh about it now. It became our thing, our private joke. Sometimes other customers would look at us weird, this guy spending 10 minutes cleaning one windshield while we talked and smiled at each other like idiots. We didn't care. Tyler figured it out eventually. He came home one day, and I was just sitting on the couch, grinning at my phone like an idiot, texting Finn. "Dude," Tyler said, "you've got it so bad." "What?" I said, trying to play it cool. Tyler rolled his eyes. "Whoever you're texting, you look like you're made of sunshine right now. It's disgusting. It's great. Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the gas station, about the windshield, about how Finn made me laugh and made me think and made me feel like maybe I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Tyler listened to all of it and then said, "So when do I get to meet this windshield wizard?" And I realized I wanted that. Wanted Finn to meet my friends, to be part of my life in every way, not just in stolen moments between gas pumps and coffee shops. Meeting each other's people felt like a big step, but it also felt natural. Finn got along with Tyler immediately, bonding over their shared love of terrible science fiction movies. I met his roommate and the infamous 4 cats, who immediately decided I was their new favorite person. We started sleeping over at each other's places, leaving toothbrushes and spare clothes, building a life together in small increments. There were hard moments, too. My dad came to visit in November, and I told him I was seeing someone but hadn't specified who. When Finn stopped by and I introduced him, I watched my dad's face do this complicated thing, cycling through surprise and discomfort before landing on strained politeness. Finn handled it with grace, making conversation about football and the weather, acting like he didn't notice the tension. After my dad left, I apologized, felt like I needed to explain. Finn just pulled me close and said, "He'll come around, and if he doesn't, that's his loss, not ours." By December, we'd been together for 3 months, and it felt like 3 years in the best way, like we'd known each other forever. I'd stopped questioning whether this was real or right or too fast. It just was. Finn was studying for finals, stressed and exhausted, living on coffee and determination. I'd show up at his apartment with food, and we'd sit on his couch, his head on my shoulder while he read textbooks and I worked on my laptop. His roommate would step over us to get to the kitchen, and the cats would curl up in our laps, and it was so domestic and comfortable and right. One Saturday night, we were lying in my bed, the room dark except for the streetlight coming through the window. Finn was tracing patterns on my arm, and I was half asleep, completely content. "Hey," he said quietly. I remember the first time you pulled into the station. You looked so stressed, like you were carrying the weight of the world, and I just thought, I want to make that guy smile. So I offered to clean your windshield." I turned to look at him. "That's why you did it." He nodded. "And then you smiled, and I thought, okay, I need to make him smile again. So every time you came back, I'd find a reason to keep you there a little longer. The windshield thing was just an excuse." I was quiet for a moment, processing this. "So you're saying you've been flirting with me since day one, and I was just oblivious?" He laughed. "Pretty much, yeah." I kissed him then, slow and soft. "I'm glad you're persistent." Christmas came, and we decided to spend it together, just the 2 of us. Neither of us was going home to family, so we made our own celebration. We cooked dinner together, which mostly involved Finn teaching me how to not burn things, and exchanged small gifts. I gave him a fancy water bottle for his hikes and a book about environmental activism he'd mentioned wanting to read. He gave me a journal with a leather cover and said, "You told me once you used to write, before work took over. Maybe it's time to start again." I opened that journal on New Year's Eve, sitting at the gas station where we'd met. Finn was working, and I'd stopped by to see him, our tradition continuing even though we saw each other almost every day now. I started writing about him, about us, about how a chance encounter at a gas station had turned into the most real thing in my life. How love had snuck up on me when I wasn't looking, disguised as a guy with a squeegee and a crooked smile. When his shift ended, we drove to a spot overlooking the city, one of those places where you can see all the lights spread out below you. We sat on the hood of my car, my very clean car with its perpetually spotless windshield, and counted down to midnight with a podcast playing from my phone. When the new year arrived, Finn kissed me and said, "I'm really glad you needed gas that day. I'm really glad you're terrible at taking a hint," I said back. He laughed. "Hey, you kept coming back." "That's on you." "Yeah," I said. "Best decision I ever made." Now it's March, and we're still here. Still us. Finn passed all his finals and is taking a full course load this semester. I've started writing again, really writing, and I'm thinking about what I actually want to do with my life instead of just going through the motions. We talk about the future sometimes, carefully, not wanting to jinx anything, but with this quiet certainty that we'll figure it out together. I still stop by the gas station on his shifts, even though it's completely out of my way now. And he still cleans my windshield, even though it's always clean. Because it's our thing, our beginning, the place where everything started, where a guy decided to take a chance on making a stressed stranger smile, and that stranger decided to keep coming back, and somehow that turned into this, into love, into home. Last week, Finn told me he got an internship with the State Park Service for the summer. It's exactly what he wants to do. The first real step toward his dream. I'm so proud of him I could burst. We celebrated with pizza and cheap wine, and he said, "None of this would have happened if I hadn't met you. You made me believe I could actually do this." I kissed him and said, "You were always going to do this. I just got to watch." But the truth is, we made each other believe. Believe that it's okay to want something different, to change directions, to take chances on strangers at gas stations. Believe that love doesn't have to be complicated or dramatic to be real. Sometimes it's just windshield cleaning and coffee shops and someone who makes you want to be braver than you are. So yeah, that's my story. The guy at the gas station cleaned my windshield twice just to keep talking, and I kept coming back just to let him. And somewhere in all those conversations, all those moments stretched out in autumn sunlight and winter cold, we fell in love. Not the movie kind of love, but the real kind, the kind that's built on showing up and paying attention and choosing each other every day. My windshield has never been cleaner, and my life has never been fuller. Funny how things work out sometimes.